Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 in Bush, I've got him at gunpoint. Check the left phone, we're going to pull that direction on your side. We're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for game.
What's the War Stories? I'm Tom.
And I'm Chuck.
Oh, we are pretty stocked up. We're producer Dylan's doing a great job. He's doing yeoman's work, keeping us scheduled with guests and keeping us on track. I love it. The only downside is we're ahead enough to where, as I've said before, I can't keep track of where we're at. So,
yeah,
I think we're. Yeah, I don't even know like how do I ask you how you're doing when I don't remember what happened on Locker Room Live, because it's not going to match ever.
No, it's not. What the fuck? Well, it's okay.
Yeah. Like I was going to talk to you about this week's Locker Room Live if we're going to have it, and then I realized that's nobody here is going. This will be a month old by the time people hear it. So
yeah, who knows? And then in a month from now, probably.
Yeah. So
as much as I can give you, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Well, we'll see.
But we are here for another guest this week, and it's kind of interesting. I won't say who, but today's episode kind of dovetails into a message we got a little while back. Well, recently, but by the time you hear this, it will have been a little while back. And we released our episode on the truth about PTSD, and we had some very frank and raw discussions about it. And one of our longtime listeners who has found me on social media wanted me to tell you, Chuck, that he sent me a message to pass on to the both of us that he really appreciated that episode, specifically because he essentially was saying, and I don't want to give anything away or speak out of turn, going through some shit and just kind of life and how it gets to you sometimes. And as a result of just the way life was getting to him, this is episode 289, by the way. So this was about a month ago.
6 ago.
Yeah, 6 ago. I think.
295. Oh my God.
295, yeah.
6 ago, yeah. 6
ago. It's 295. It hopefully is 295, unless our numbering system's all wrong. But anyway.
Wow.
We released it. We were talking to a SWAT sergeant from a police department in Colorado, and he was very honest about PTSD, and we I think it was a pretty frank and honest discussion about it. And this listener contacted us and said essentially he appreciated the episode, and he had just gone to his first therapy session that week.
Right on,
essentially going through some stuff, brought up the past unintentionally, like he wasn't expecting it, kind of, as the past does, it kind of creeps in on you sometimes. And
that's how you know it's a trigger. You gotta deal with it.
Right. And he found himself engaging in self-destructive behaviors, I'll say.
Yeah, dude, sometimes that shit will creep up on you and kick you right in the dirt. I mean,
right.
And that sucks. Sorry to hear that you're going through some stuff, man. That I feel you.
But we're glad to hear that you're taking care of it.
Yeah.
And Chuck, I'll tell you who it is. So if you want to reach out to him or whatever, but I think I sent his message to you as well. But we're proud of you, brother, and stay the course. We were chatting back and forth, and one of the things I had said was, he said, I thought this stuff was gone. I said, well, we always think that because when we're busy, we're busy. Our prefrontal cortex is dealing with day-to-day life. As soon as we're not busy and we have time to slow down and we're left alone with our own thoughts. Yeah, buddy.
The quiet is when it gets you. Yeah. I mean, I could tell you firsthand, and I know Tom's been through it, and we've all been through it.
Right.
I didn't know I had an issue with post-traumatic stress and stuff that I had seen and witnessed as a law enforcement officer until I got injured for a prolonged period of time. And after about a year, I was like, okay, still was doing all right. And then all of a sudden shit changed overnight. It was just because the simple fact that you don't have anything occupying your mind anymore, and you're just stuck there, and then your thoughts kick in, and everything that
Mhm.
you've kind of thought you've dealt with, just because you shoved it deep down inside, and maybe you coped with it with alcohol, or whatever, or video
Or
games, or
something worse.
eating, or something worse, drugs, fucking heroin, opiate pills. I
Mm.
say heroin because it's fucking heroin, but you know it could be Oxy, it could be Vicodin, it could be whatever they prescribe you for an injury or whatever. I mean, I didn't have that issue, you know.
But we had a guest on the show that I worked with. He was my buddy. He got shot in the line of duty. He ended up getting addicted to painkillers. Like, it happens.
It happens. It fucking happens, and a lot of the times they overprescribe. But we're not here to talk about drugs. We're here to talk
Well,
about self-destructive behavior.
but
Well,
one of
maybe,
the
yeah,
things that
kind of.
ties into
Yeah.
is my buddy who he's been on this show. I don't
Mhm.
think he'll mind me saying that. You can go listen to his episode about getting shot 4 times at close range with a
Yeah.
357 Magnum. He is
Yeah.
now
Good guy.
he's now done being a cop. He is now clean and sober. He got his shit together, and I think that dovetails in nicely with this week's guest.
It does. It does very much.
So, Chuck, who did producer Dylan book with us this week?
So we have Joe. Joe runs a podcast, and he's actually wearing his podcast shirt. If we could bring him up right now, that'd be
Yeah.
great. He runs a
There
podcast.
he
He
is.
helps
Hey, Joe.
veterans combat PTSD. It's the Sober Vet podcast. Make sure to check them out. But he's also a veteran himself. He joined the Army in 2000. Shortly thereafter, the towers were struck. We all know that. What happened after that? And then he was also on the Patriot missile system. So intrigued to hear about that. And there's a bunch of other things, but what I think the biggest message is the Sober Vet podcast, and he's helping a lot of vets and getting them on there and helping those that need help with struggling with PTS or PTSD or bad choices, self-destructive habits.
And I can't wait. Welcome, Joe, because I wouldn't imagine sobriety and veterans go together in the same sentence for most people.
They don't. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate being on the show.
Welcome.
But yeah, part of the main mission of the podcast is to normalize sobriety with veterans, because that's a conversation I've never heard. But I'll get into that in a little bit.
Sure.
I wanted to start this evening by saying why and how I joined the Army. So my senior year back in 2000, I had no purpose. I was a class clown. I had my own desk in the in-school suspension room. I was on academic probation for my senior prom. My picture was excluded from the yearbook because the principal and I did not see eye to eye.
That is amazing. Matt should be here. Matt would be so proud of you.
Yeah, so that was me. I literally, there's me right in the middle. So again, no direction. So halfway through my senior year, my best friend comes up to me and is like, dude, what are we doing when we graduate? And I was like, I don't know, going to college. And he was like, you don't have the grades for that. He was like, I've been talking to an Army recruiter. We could join in the buddy program, go to boot camp together, our first duty station together. So I was like, all right, dude, I got your back. So we joined in the delayed entry program. We signed up to December of our senior year. And then we weren't leaving until like August 17th after we graduated. Well, 2 weeks before we go to leave, my buddy calls me up and says, yo, bro,
I'm scared. I can't do it. Yeah.
Dude, 100%. He got a lawyer and got out of it. So I'm like, the fuck? Like,
oh, shit,
this was
really?
your idea? Yeah. So I ended up.
I hate you so much right now.
Dude, I was shocked. I didn't even know what to say. So, but I'm a man of my word. So I still joined, did boot camp at Fort Sill, Lawton, Oklahoma.
Wait, are you still friends with him?
No, I don't respect him. He's not a man of his word.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I don't waste my time. Yeah,
you buddy fucker.
By the time you were probably done with him by the time you hit the first day of boot camp. You were like,
100%. I was like, fuck. Yeah, I was like cursing his name the whole time. And I told everybody the story. They're like, that motherfucker, dude. Like, yeah. So then I did AIT at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And that's where I learned to work.
Explain to our listeners, not all of our listeners will know what AIT is.
True. So AIT is Advanced Individual Training. It's where you go after boot camp to learn your military occupational specialty. Yep. And so I was there at Fort Bliss in El Paso for, I believe it was 13 weeks. And then after that, I was stationed there as well. That was my first duty station. And then within 6 months, 9/11 happened because I joined during peacetime. So 9/11 happened.
Or so you thought.
Yeah, now we're like, oh, shit's getting real. So,
just before all the sign-on bonuses kicked in.
Right.
true.
Just in time to miss the sign-on bonuses.
I had a small one. I think my sign-on bonus was like $800. Like I did have a little bit sign-on bonus. So it was something nice. It was cool.
My boy got
but
10 G's for going in the army.
see, I don't want to hear that,
He got
dude. 10 G's.
But we enlisted at the same time, and I went to the Marine Corps, and they
Are you
gave
talking
me
about? Are you talking
$1,000.
about
Yeah.
John? Yeah, he got
10
more.
Gs.
He got more than 10 G's.
It was like 10 or 20. I don't remember, but it was like it was a good chunk, and I was like,
It was but his
motherfucker.
was because he was like, I want to go to they're like, well, you'll get a bonus if you sign up to go to combat, and he's like, is there any other way to sign up? Like I was planning on signing up to go to combat, and they're like, oh, well, then you get a bonus.
Nice, good for him. Was he 11 Bravo or what was his MLS?
Yeah, he was 11 Bang Bang.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he 101st Airborne Air Assault did his first, like, basically he went and showed up at his base, and he showed up for his unit, and they're like, we're leaving in 30 days, you have no time to train. So his first like training was in country.
Ooh, God bless him. How's he doing now? Is he good?
Yeah, he's a copper here by me. We live near each other. We're good dude, great dude,
outstanding, awesome, cool. Yeah. So shortly after we railloaded all of our equipment, it went down to Corpus Christi, Texas. Went on a boat over to Qatar. We joined it in Qatar because our main mission, be it air defense artillery, the Patriot missile. We basically protected from any incoming tactical ballistic missiles, Scuds, any airborne threats, if you will, that was coming towards.
Can you explain what the Patriot missile system is?
Yes.
If you don't know what the damn Patriot missile system is, anyway, go ahead.
Patriot,
I have a tie into it that I'm going to share in a second.
As with everything in the military, Patriot is an acronym. It's a phase array tracking radar intercept on target. So basically, it's an 18-foot long missile where if anything is incoming that's airborne, it flies up in front of it, explodes, lets all these little bulletins, like these little pieces of shrapnel, just shred apart whatever is coming in. And there's different packs. There's the Pack 2, the Pack 3. They're different size missiles, different ranges. We mainly worked with the Pack 2 when I was deployed. And again, we first set up in northern Qatar, a place called Ras Laffan. Our main mission was to protect Doha, which was Central Command. And I mean, there were times where we did have to rely on the Patriot missile system. Like we would get a Scud alert. We would have to get into MOP 4, which is the chemical gear, which are a gas mask and the suit on. We would have to get into our bunker. Oh, dude, it's so hot. Can't breathe. But yeah, we would have to get in our bunkers and then wait for the all clear. But one night particularly stood out to me because I worked in the command post and I could listen to the TOC, which is a tactical operation command. It's like the main radio where all the adjoining units, like the British, they all communicated on this one radio. So I was in the command post. It was like 2 a.m. I stepped outside for a cigarette and I noticed there was like a small Cessna, which is like a 2-passenger plane kind of doing circles above us. And I'm like, what is it? Like, why is he observing in the middle of the night? So I thought it was weird. So I talked to my NCO and I was like, hey, Sergeant Espino, there's a plane out here. He comes up. He's like, we should probably call that in. So we get on this radio. We report it to Central Command and then they get on the horn. They're like, any jets in the area, and this one guy gets on, he's like, yeah, I'm about 5 mics out. So I was like, well, I want to see this. So I go back outside and I'm waiting. And again, this Cessna is just kind of circling at a slow pace. And then all of a sudden you hear his engines rev up and he starts beelining it like away from us. And I was like, oh, the guy must be close. And then this F-16 just does this low flyby right near him. And you could see like the red, white, and blue markers on it. And I was like, that's pretty freaking cool how fast, like we're the Army, we just reached out to the Air Force and within 5 minutes they were scaring this guy off. And I was like, it was just kind of cool how quick we kind of synced up with a whole nother branch, you know?
I mean, that's, you know, like that's the beauty of the Armed Forces. You guys are going to give each other massive amounts of shit constantly when you're not doing the Lord's work. But as soon as it's time to do work, all that shit goes out the window and you do work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, I love that.
Yeah, so as Third ID was moving in on Baghdad, the air threat was diminishing. So we actually loaded our equipment up, went up the Gulf, set up right outside Kuwait City. And we were there only like a month or two. And then Third ID had taken over Baghdad at that time. So the air threat was gone. So then we sent our equipment home. We stayed in country for a couple months just to pull details, help other people that needed help. And then I came back early 2004, and they were tempting me with Germany if I re-enlisted, because there's an air defense artillery base in Germany. And they're like, if you sign up for 4 more, we'll send you to Germany. And I was like, you know what? Like, I survived the war. I came back with my limbs and my sanity. So I figured me and Uncle Sam were square. So I got an honorable discharge in 04, and then kind of started my civilian career. And one thing that started this, like, I'm going to get to the sober vet, but I think in high school, I drank like normal parties and stuff. Right. But when I was stationed at Fort Bliss in El Paso, because we're in Western Texas, we were right next to Juarez, Mexico. In Mexico, you only have to be 18 to drink. So someone decided, as long as you're on Fort Bliss, you only have to be 18 to drink to keep soldiers on post. So when I got stationed there, I was like, wait, we could drink and we're living in the barracks with like no parental supervision. So dude, we like, again, I was in the ADA, the Air Defense Artillery, but we dubbed ourselves the Alcoholics Defending America. Cause like, dude, our barrack parties were crazy. We would get white girl wasted like every night, dude. Like it was nuts. So like, we would do like Edward 40 hands. We would have keggers in the barracks. Like we would just go crazy, and we were young. So we would still wake up 4 o'clock, do our chores, do PT in the morning, and we were fine because
you're young and dumb, and you're in the military, and your body
absolutely, yeah. And it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. I don't remember half of it, but there was a lot of good times down there.
I mean, if you remember it, did you really have a good time?
Exactly, right. So fast forward to when I got out. My transition to civilian life was pretty tough. There wasn't a lot of like programs like there are now with the VA to help with that. So I kind of became a recluse. Like I tried to hang out with my friends prior to joining, and they're like, dude, what is your issue? Like your sense of humor is way dark. Like they couldn't relate to like the language I was speaking.
Were they civilians? Were they normies?
Yeah, they were normies. Yep.
Oh, wow. So
I started like staying to myself. I would drink at home and not do much, not go out much. And then when I would go out, I eventually met my wife at a bar. We got married about 2 years after I met her, and my drinking was like progressively getting worse because my tolerance was getting higher.
And let me guess, you wore that shit like a badge of honor, because I learned how to drink in the Marine Corps. Oh, yeah. I learned how to drink in the Marine Corps. I could kill a fifth of fucking Sailor Jerry in a night. Yeah, and I was 19, 20 years old, and I could kill a fifth with Sailor Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing, right? Cops and veterans are consistently, and cops who are veterans will attest to this. Mm-hmm. Cops who have not been veterans and veterans who have not been cops will consistently argue over who can put away the most booze.
I believe it.
Consistently, right? Yeah. Veterans are like, you don't know what drinking is. I learned to drink in the Marine Corps. I learned to drink in the Army. And cops are like, bitch. All right. And so I think Chuck has a unique, the cops who are veterans, or the veterans who became cops, can speak to the fact that I think both sides are pretty much equally self-destructive. It just, when you're in the military, you concentrate that self-destructive behavior into about 4 years.
Yes.
And in law enforcement, you spread it out over 25.
Well, I have to say this, going from the military into law enforcement had a tolerance that I could drink like that.
Right.
Then getting into law enforcement,
yeah,
I already had a predisposition to drink, and I had slowed down a lot due to a lot of different things, competing and things like that in a pro sport, whatever, yada, yada, blah, 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 bullshit. And then, but I started coping with alcohol in law enforcement by myself, which was a big difference. And the Marine Corps, we're with your buddies, and you're shooting the shit. You're playing beer pong. You're playing power hour. You're drinking a shot of beer every 60 seconds. You're doing stuff, but you're constantly hanging out with people at parties and chilling on the weekends and decompressing from whatever bullshit you just dealt with the whole last 5 days. And you got 2 days to get it in as hard as you can. Mm-hmm. And then when it switched and everything went to law enforcement, I didn't have that camaraderie like I had in the military. I was by myself because everybody in my agency was spread out over all these geographical divisions and locations in different parts of the city of Los Angeles, different parts of the county, fucking Orange County, Hawthorne, different places, Bakersfield, it just, they were so spread out that the guys that you would work with at your station weren't the guys you were kicking it with on the weekends, even though it probably would have been a lot better to kick with those guys because you probably would have drank a lot less. But you were dealing with this shit from work and all the traumas that you're dealing with at work that you don't think are traumas at the time. And then you start to cope with alcohol and you're like, I'll have a little bit, I'll have a little bit, I'll have a little bit, to the point where every night you get home, you're having 2 old fashions before you go down. And to the point where I was talking to other coppers and they're like, I had to stop myself from drinking. I only allow myself on my Friday to have a few old fashions or some beer or whatever, but I can't do it during the week. And I'm like, damn, pussy, that was my whole mentality.
But nobody wants to be a pussy.
Different. No, right. No one wants to talk about it.
Okay, I'll say it. How many times have okay, I'll speak for myself. I don't know how many times I have used the phrase rehab is for quitters, or I'm a drunk, I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics go to meetings, right? Now, I say that tongue in cheek, knowing full well my grandfather did 33 years in AA. I've got the gold coin and I've got his final chip that he got before he all that stuff. He was a World War II vet working through some issues and he became an alcoholic, right? So I know to be watchful of that, right? And I saw myself going down that path. And I'm guessing, Joe, let me back up. Did you see yourself going down that path or did somebody else have to point it out to you?
So I kind of was in denial. And Tom, one fun saying that I say that you didn't mention is drinking before noon doesn't make me an alcoholic. It makes me a pirate. So that was one I used to tell people.
So our co-host on the Locker Room, Matt, his dad was Irish. His dad was Irish and said, they can't say you've been drinking all day if you don't start first thing in the morning.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. So to answer your question, I knew what I was doing was wrong because like Chuck was saying, as a civilian, I started with like domestic beers. Then I switched over to like double IPAs, which were like 9%. And then I noticed myself buying a fifth of SoCo, Southern Comfort, keeping it in my basement. And in between beers, I'd run downstairs and sneak a shot. So when I was sneaking it, because I didn't want my wife to know what I was doing, that's when I realized I had a problem, to the point where she was like, how are you so we need to limit your drinking, because she would say I would get this look on my face. I would start slurring my words in front of my kids. So she's these like high octane beers, like you're getting way too drunk too quick. So let's limit you to like 3 a night. You could only drink on the weekends, 3 each night. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. But the alcoholic in me wouldn't let me.
And then you'd go sneak something else in between.
Yeah, I would drink 3 in front of her, but if ever I went downstairs, I would have stashes and I would pound a beer. Or if I'm like, yeah, I want to go run out and get dinner, I would grab a road beer and pound it on the way there. Like I was just doing stupid stuff, and it got to the point where like I kept trying to quit, making empty promises. And it got to the point where my wife sat me down and was like, listen, it's us or the alcohol. I'm tired of you lying. Like she ended up finding my stash. She found all these empty Southern Comfort bottles and was like, whoa, what the hell is all this? Like, then she was really concerned for me and still wanted me to quit. And I was like, I don't have a problem. Because again, I'm a business owner. I go to church every Sunday. I never called off work for drinking. Like I was a very responsible alcoholic, but
high functioning alcoholic.
High functioning, yes. But
other people have problems. I don't have problems.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm like, that guy got a DUI, and that guy like he can't even afford his mortgage because he's spending it all on whatever. And yeah, I kept deflecting and not accepting. So when my wife sat me down and was ready, I have 2 boys. I'm a child of divorce. When she was ready to take my kids and leave me, that scared the shit out of me. So I was like, all right, let's try 6 months.
She hit you where you live.
Right. Yeah. So that day I quit cold turkey. I quit for 6 months. Honestly, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. After 6 months, though, we kind of stopped and reassessed, and I looked at every aspect of my life. Nothing was worse. Literally everything was better. My health, my sleeping, my memory,
Mhm.
my business, my money. Dude, I had money in my pocket. I was wasting so much money on alcohol. It was ridiculous. Like,
Oh,
so
I
again,
feel you, dude. I
yeah.
feel
And
you.
even my relationship with my kids, like literally everything was better. So I was like, you know what? Let's go another 6 months, see what
How old were your
happens.
kids, by the way,
Yeah.
at this time?
So I quit drinking 3 years ago. So they would be 19 and 12.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Oh,
they
so they're
weren't
old
young
enough
young.
to realize what's going on,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so
And to
they
the
have,
point,
yeah,
yeah, my
they've seen
youngest,
all
like,
that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I would have a beer in my hand, like my oldest never minded because we've always been like the best of buds. But my youngest, when I would have a beer in my hand, he wouldn't even go near me. He wouldn't sit next to me on the couch. He was like I don't even want to go near dad when he's drinking. So like
Yeah,
that,
I feel you.
yeah, that was tough. Um, Now again, in the first 6 months, the only thing I noticed that was worse was I felt like I lost my confidence because I didn't have that beer to rely on at the end of the week. I didn't have that thing to suppress feelings. So now I'm dealing with all these feelings. I feel like I'm exposed. Like I almost felt like I was unplugged from the matrix, like the first six
Yeah.
months. Like I felt like I was on a wavelength no one could understand. So again, after reassessing after 6 months, we did another 6 months. And after that year, by going through all these little wins and realizing I can go through a stressful situation without drinking, or I don't need that beer at the end of the week to make it to the next week. Like, so as I'm collectively doing these small wins, I gain my confidence back. And then once I had my confidence back, I realized that my confidence now is better than it was after doing 3 Jaeger bombs and jumping on stage for karaoke. Like I'm more confident now than I ever was drinking, which I never thought I would be, because I've never been sober this
Right.
long. So that really like set me up for something. So I'm a business owner. I own J-Dog Junk Removal and Hauling of Lancaster. We're a veteran-owned and operated junk removal company. And
Nice.
when I first got sober, I wanted to do something to occupy my time and kind of take my mind off drinking. So every Saturday morning, I started doing what I call a celebration of sobriety, where I throw a 45-pound rucksack on that I found on a job, and I do a hike 4 to 5 miles in the woods, just kind of clear my head. And again, I wanted to
Love
do
it.
something that I would never want to do drinking. Because, dude, can you imagine ruck marking, like doing it on your own? Ruck marching 45 miles hungover, like fuck
Oh, it's
that.
horrible.
I
It's different
I
when you have your boys next to you.
True,
I
true.
can't
But
imagine rucking for fun.
it does sound crazy, but to me, it's
No, no,
very
no. My
therapeutic.
son-in-law does it too.
Nice.
He's like, you know what? I've got my rucksack. I've got weights. I've got my plate carrier with weights in it. I've got, he just like, bro, you miss it that bad? He's like, I guess.
I guess it
All
is
all
nuts when
my
you think about it.
all my boys, a lot of my boys who, when they got out of the Corps, they did a lot of the ruck stuff, and then there was that one company, Ruck something, where they had that sandbag where you could bring, and it would have different levers and handles that you could hold on to do different type of things and do body weight, do like overhead presses, or you could do squats, or you could do goblet squats, you could do all this type of stuff, and they would take it on their rucks and stuff like that. And I used to do a lot of that stuff in CrossFit. And it was honestly, when I was doing it, it was some of the most cathartic shit that you could ever do. And that kept me from drinking and having an issue a lot. And this is not story is not about me. It's about you. I've worked through my demons. I've done my shit. It's a work in progress. As you see, I still drink a little bit, but probably because I don't want to say like I'm an alcoholic, because I don't think I am. I just think I've had some bad shit that has happened. I've coped with it the wrong way, and I had to find different coping mechanisms to do it. And it sounds like you found a lot of different ways to cope and to show that you have confidence without the alcohol. And I think that's so important for other people to find a purpose, because men need a purpose.
Absolutely.
100% men need a purpose.
Well,
And
that's when we're left to our own devices.
destructive.
Oh,
So
what do
I
I
love that
do?
you found your
Let's
purpose,
just
dude.
destruct some shit, including
Yeah.
myself. Now,
Right.
hey, so let me ask you this. So, obviously, we've discussed that sobriety is not. I mean, I don't know another subsection of society, maybe frat guys, where their ability to consume alcohol is as much of a source of pride as it is in the veteran police community, right?
Or first responders.
Yeah.
'Cause I know firefighters. that
First
slam
responders,
shit.
yeah, you know, and then you add to the fact that I get memes all the time from buddies who are sending memes about how they are fully aware they're self-medicating with alcohol. Now, they may or may not have a drinking problem, right? Because, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, there are people that can take Vicodin. There are people that can take Adderall. There are people that can smoke recreational pot. There are people that can have the occasional cigarette. Not every substance that is physically addictive will end up with you physically addicted to it. Some of that shit depends on you, right?
There's
Right.
outliers for sure.
Right.
Predispositions and things like that.
So when you decided to do this and get sober, obviously it was for your family. Your family is more important.
Right.
Family first, right? I mean, I'll tell you, my wife, you know, and seeing me suffer physically and emotionally and mentally, you know, is a big reason of why I made changes in my life and did things in my life that got me to where I am. And we do things for family, right?
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
did you notice a change in how, like, you own a veteran run business? I assume you hire a lot of veterans.
We only hire vets. Yep.
Yeah, so exclusively
yeah,
veterans.
Mhm.
Did you get a lot of pushback when you said, I'm going sober, I'm giving up drinking? Did you get push? Did you get support? How'd it go?
So at first, I was worried about that because everyone I know drinks, all my friends drink. It was part of my fabric. Like I literally had a group of guys we called Golf Yankees 6. We're all veteran business owners, and we got together once a month to drink and share stories about business and stuff. So yeah, when I first quit, I was like, "Crap, am I going to lose everything?" So I just
do I not
told
get
all
to
my
be in the
friends.
club?
Right,
That must have
right.
been scary, dude. That must have been
It was
scary.
very scary. Absolutely. So, but what I did was I chose to be 100% honest. I was like, listen, here's where I am. I'm an alcoholic. I've been sneaking this. I can't just have one drink. I'm balls to the wall. If I have one beer, it turns into 30 and shots and whatever I could do. So my wife gave me an ultimatum. So I'm doing the right thing. I'm saving my family. I no longer drink. If you guys want to drink, feel free to, but just don't even like tempt me with it. Dude, my friends showed up in a way I never thought they would. Not only were they supportive of me, not one person gave me shit. And you know, Vet, we give each other shit about everything. No one gave me shit about it, to the point where I was 2 months sober. One of our Golf Yankee 6 meetings was at my VFW, and we were watching the Eagles game on a Sunday. And when I told my wife, she was like, "You're not going." I'm like, "Honey, you have to be able to trust me. I know I'm going to be around drinking." But she's like, "No, it's too soon. I don't want you being around those guys." So I called my buddy Jeff, who's a Marine vet, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going to be able to make this weekend's meeting. My wife's worried about me drinking." He's like, "Dude, but you're doing so good." He's like, "How about this? I'll be your sober buddy. I'll not drink. I'll make sure you don't drink. Put your wife on the phone." He gets on the phone with my wife. He's like, "Katie, I will not drink on Sunday. I will make sure Joe doesn't drink." Like, how cool is that? That he stood up, especially during a football game, because dude, that's hand in hand watching football, drinking and shit.
Especially during a Birds game, bro. Come on.
Absolutely.
Without answering, not without answering, but without telling me if you do, because I think I have a theory as to why that you got that response. Do you have a theory as to why you got that response?
I never thought about it, because honestly, I didn't think
you didn't think you would get that response.
Not at all.
Right.
No,
I didn't think you would get that response. And I obviously I had some questions about what kind of a response you would get. Chuck had some questions about what response you would get, because that's why we asked, right? That's part of why we do the show, is because we know what questions to ask.
Yep.
I have a theory, and maybe you two can speak to this. I 100% believe, as of right now, that you got the response you got because you went to your boys head on and went full open kimono and said, "Hey guys, I got to tell you something." And it was something that was so vulnerable and so frank and so straightforward. And you basically said, that's it. That's all I got. Right. Like this is it. So
Yeah.
this, as opposed to if you were like tiptoeing around it, right? And they're like, oh, come on, you pussy. They were going to give you shit because in their minds, that just kind of being a weak ass bitch and not wanting to party is unacceptable.
Right.
But being a hard charger who says, this is a fucking problem and I'm handling it head on, and if you don't like it, that's tough shit. I think that probably earned their respect. And they also probably said, well, fuck it. Then if that's the fight, we're here to back you up 100%.
Absolutely. You're spot on, dude. Yeah, no, you're spot on. And since I've been sober, a couple of my friends have gotten sober too, because they see a new spark in me. They see how I'm thriving now. And they're like, damn, bro. Because, dude, I lost like 50 pounds. Like, I was all swollen before, like, and my health is so much better. And like, yeah, so people now are following suit.
10 times
dude,
better.
all my numbers. Dude, for the first
better.
time in my life, literally, I went to the dentist. They're like, man, your teeth are perfect. My blood's good. I'm not on any medications that I don't
acid
need
reflux,
to be. Like,
bro.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's not coming up eating the fucking enamel on your teeth.
Yep.
Because you don't get that when you're not drinking. You know what I mean? That was one of the biggest things I realized when I slowed down and I was like, hey, I need to pause for a fucking second. I think I might have some issues here. And I think I might be drinking at the wrong times. Because when I'm feeling sad, that's not when you should drink. And that's the biggest issue when I think of in law enforcement. And Tom can talk to this because I'm sure he's heard of this with guys, hey, if you got a problem or whatever, talk to your buddy, take him out for a beer.
Right.
Hard stop, bud, because that's the wrong thing to do. Don't take your boy out if he's having a hard time and induce alcohol, because what that does is it shows them when they're struggling that their coping mechanism is a beer and talking.
Right.
And then they get fucking a little drunk, they cry a little bit, and you're like, all right, it's been a good time. No, they're dealing with fucking traumas right now that's getting brought up, and it's not good, and they're not able to resolve this. And then they're gonna get sober, and they're like, oh, that was all right. I don't want to do that again. And
if they remember the conversation,
if they exactly if they remember. And so I would always say, like, it's not a good idea to if I'm sad, I'm not gonna drink or whatever. But if I had a friend, a boy, who was like, hey man, I'm struggling. Cop, vet, whoever the fuck, I can't be hanging out, we can't be drinking. I'm like, hey dude, come over, we're not gonna fucking drink, we don't need to go over there, you and I can kick it here. I mean, it's the brotherhood is so thick when it comes to that, when you're being honest and straightforward and truthful, that you'll do anything for that guy. You'll take a fucking bullet for that guy. You'll do whatever it takes. And this is no different. This is no different than taking that bullet or being like, hey, this is a dangerous situation. Let me protect you and make sure that you're fucking safe. It's the same shit.
Exactly.
And we have that brotherhood and that honor, from serving, that it's above all else. And I can tell you this, I can guarantee you, most of your boys were probably in the back of their mind, they were struggling a little bit too. So when they saw you do it, they're like, fuck, that's a vote of confidence for them. So they're like, hey, you know what? If he's doing it, I'm going to do it. We're all going to do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if you have more who follow suit eventually. And, eventually maybe those meetings, they get switched to something else. Maybe you go and you do something that's athletic once a month or whatever. They get your mind off of something else to feed that addiction into something else and to put forth that effort that you did with drinking into something more, productive. I don't know, constructive. My dad used to say, do something constructive. You know what I mean? Same shit.
Yeah. Or something that serves you and just makes you better. Absolutely. So back to the ruck marches.
Yeah.
When I'm in the woods, I would get a lot of inspiration for videos for my business, ideas for my bid. I would always rely on that time alone with Mother Nature as a background to really inspire me. So when I first got sober for like almost a year, I would do these ruck marches and I had zero inspiration. So God was a big part of my sobriety path. And I finally got fed up and I kind of called God out. I was on a ruck march and I'm like, God, I'm almost a year sober. I'm an able body. I know a lot of people. Use me for anything. Whatever you need me to do, just use me. You let me be a conduit.
Boy.
So I'm challenging him.
The wrong thing, didn't you?
but it's such the right thing. So literally on
but
that
you know
hike,
what I mean? Like you probably you asked for it, and he's like, okay, really?
yeah,
Because I'll give
yep,
it to you.
right,
Yeah,
and that's the path.
what God
So on
does.
that hike, I turn this one corner I have like 100 times before, and literally in my head, clear as day, I heard this sober vet. I'm like, this sober vet. I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, is that like a podcast? So now my brain, like he literally just dropped this little seed. So now my brain just starts going. So I'm like, it's a podcast. I could tell my story. I could get other vets sober. I should normalize sobriety of veterans because that's a conversation I've never heard. So I'm like on fire.
Amazing.
So I get home from this work march. My wife, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, God talked to me. He told me about this sober vet. I want to do it. Like I'm going a million miles a minute. She's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She's like, that's a cool idea and all, but like you have no credentials. Like you need to get with like a vet who's a therapist, and maybe the both of you can tackle this. And I'm like, oh shit, you're right. Like, because this is just me and my story. Like, who am I? So
Right.
I have a big network. So I'm like, I just gotta find a therapist that's a veteran. No big deal.
And
Dude,
your
for like-
doctorate through WebMD and Google.
Right. Yeah. Mhm. So I figured at this huge network, it shouldn't be an issue for me to find anything. Well, come to find out, like 6 weeks later, I know a shit ton of veterans. I know a shit ton of therapists. I didn't know one that was both. So now I'm like,
let's back up, because to be quite honest, finding a veteran who has the heart and personality to then go become a therapist is pretty fucking hard.
it is.
That's
You're
a
unique.
tough ass.
hard.
And I'll tell you right
Yes.
now, in my day job, I am the law enforcement component, and I have a counterpart. We deal with each other a lot. We sit on a lot of committees together. We work together hand in hand, and he's the mental health coordinator. So he's the mental health component. He's a therapist. He's a
Gotcha.
strength.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We couldn't be more different people.
Right.
At our very core, we get along very well. We
Nice.
actually balance each other out. We play good cop, bad cop a lot of times. When, we've had funny conversations where when I'm not there, he tries to do the bad cop thing that I do. And he's like, I'm just, and then when
Just
he's not there, right? But I think inherently, with the exception of chaplains and military doctors, if you go join the military, your heart is that of a hard charger and not of a caretaker. And if you are a hard charger, it might be a little more difficult, or it will never occur to you to go become a therapist. Wrong? Right? Wrong? Agree?
Right. I agree. Yeah, with my mentality, absolutely. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to.
So 6 weeks later, I'm now down on myself. I'm like, God gave me this amazing idea. I can't even follow through with it because I can't find a therapist. So I'm scrolling through IG, and I come across Sergeant Thomas, who was our supply NCO, and she's advertising Evolve Therapy, her therapist spot. And I'm like, Sergeant Thomas, I didn't even think of Sergeant Thomas. So I haven't talked to her since 2004 when I got out. So I immediately
hold on.
Yes.
Do you know who thought of it?
Who
You
that?
know
God?
who thought of that?
Who?
God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He dropped that
You
shit in your
asked
lap.
him.
He's like,
You're like,
"Boop."
dude, I don't know what
Check
to
this
do. He's
out.
like, hold on, I got you.
He's like, I got you. Keep scrolling, bro. Yeah. So I reached out to Sergeant Thomas, told her my idea. She was like, that's fucking awesome. I'm on board. So episode 1 is me telling my story with Sergeant Thomas kind of chiming in. And then episode 2 and moving forward, it's us having another vet who's now sober telling their story. And then I chime in with my experience. Sergeant Thomas chimes in with her therapy experience. And together we are this sober vet. And we just recorded episode 11.
Oh, you guys are just starting out.
Nice.
Yeah, we're young. I just started in November. So this is all very new. I do 2 episodes a month. I'm booked out till episode 21. And 2 really cool things happened recently. So as we're doing these episodes and growing, and people are organically reaching out like, I'm a sober vet, I want to be on your show. So that's been very cool. A couple of people that I deployed with who are now sober have been on the show. And then as we're talking, my wife's like, you know what? You should have me on the show telling your story through the spouse's eyes. And I was like, oh shit, because that'll hit a whole nother demographic. So episode 10, I wanted to do it on a special episode. So our first time hitting double digits, I had my wife on, which like is tough because it made me look like an asshole because it did not paint me in a good light, because she's telling some hard truths of what I did to get her to the point of wanting to divorce me. But then it's a happy ending, which is always a good thing. But I felt like that was so necessary. So that episode actually is going to come out next Tuesday. And then that's going to be a very powerful one.
Bro,
and
that's accountability.
Right. Yeah.
That's what that is.
That's
what it hurts, right? But
it was very tough. Yeah.
But anybody who knows this podcast knows that we firmly will tell you every time and twice on Sunday, all growth comes from being in an uncomfortable place.
Amen. Absolutely. Yep.
Truth and honesty above all else, man.
And dude, as a man, it's fucking hard because we're not wired to be vulnerable like that. Yeah. But on the other side of it, though, there's such a freedom to it, because now I'm so free. My story's out there. And when my wife was telling stories of when I was drinking, I'm like, that's not me anymore. So I'm really not mad. I'm doing better today. And like, I'm never going back to that. So tell that story. Let others hear that, because if they could relate to that part, then maybe they could go, oh shit, like that's what I'm going through right now. Like maybe I do have a problem. So if me being vulnerable can help people change their lives for the better, dude, so be it.
You know what? I'm going to throw you a tongue-in-cheek meme that I saw. The meme was designed to be tongue-in-cheek, but I think that it kind of applies to this situation.
Okay.
In the sense that I could see a world where if you embrace, if you're a sober vet, sober cop, if you're trying to, what is it? Mel Gibson called it hugging the cactus. Right.
Yeah. Yep. I've heard that.
Hugging the, you're hugging the ugly part of you, right? You're making peace with it, right? Shaking hands with your demons, whatever analogy you want to use. I saw a meme that said, if you're trying to come at me and talk to me about the shit I did when I was drunk, I'm not responsible. That wasn't me.
Yeah, you need to talk to drunk.
Don't come at sober me and complain to sober me about what drunk me did. I wasn't there. I'm not responsible.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I know that's supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek meme, but the point is well taken, that if you're living in that place, it's not you. No. It's medicated you, right? It's yeah. And hey, this is coming from a guy who firmly knows and has I've had many friends. We've talked it through. Like, not everybody who starts having a drinking problem has to get completely stone cold sober, but some people, that's the only way.
Right.
Yeah. When you're fucking blackout drunk and the darkest parts of you come out, that's not you talking. That's your demons.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those, I've gone down the rabbit hole of scripture and stuff like that, and and all that stuff, and a lot of that stuff that comes out, that's not, yes, you wouldn't say that shit in a regular conversation. You wouldn't bring stuff up like that to random people or whatever, or be that angry of something so small or stupid or insignificant, or you wouldn't show your emotions like that and open up to fuck your kids, everybody else, in a normal everyday conversation. Those are the worst parts of the shit that you're dealing with coming out. And if you're having those issues and you're not recognizing those issues, and it takes someone to be like, hey, dipshit, smack in the face, hey, this is what's going on, you need to get some fucking help at that point.
Absolutely.
You need, I don't care if it's whatever it is, therapy, whatever the fuck you got to do, you got to get some help, because that's not you talking. Those are your demons inside of you talking, all the hard shit you've dealt with. And if you're that's coming up when you're drinking, you got to deal with that shit.
Well,
you got to deal with the demons.
I went to
in my opinion,
Chuck, you probably, because your agency was large enough that they would never send you to a training this good.
I don't know. I got in trouble and I got to some pretty cool trainings.
No, that's the thing. Getting in trouble is the only thing that's going to get you sent to training at your agency. Being a standout, like, good cop was one of the things that got you sent to training at my agency. It's the difference between a big agency where they don't want to spend money on training unless they have to say, well, he was the problem, we fixed it. My agency, they're like, oh, you're good, let's make you better, right? Doesn't mean we didn't train the fuck ups too, but I got sent to a DUI training. It was a week long. It was 5 days just on DUI, right?
Wow.
It was so in depth. We had to do a wet lab where 3 people had to go in a controlled environment and consume alcohol under measured circumstances and go back in. And like, it was in depth, right?
Hmm.
One of the people that spoke at this DUI class was the Navy doctor who performed Betty Ford's intervention.
No shit.
Because when he joined the Navy in Vietnam as a doctor, got stationed on a ship, and he said, we'd pull into port, and here are these fine, upstanding 18, 19, 20-year-old men who under normal circumstances are just good, honorable sailors.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd leave the ship for shore leave, and within 8 hours, they'd be back and in the brig or the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah.
It was always alcohol.
Did he start the Betty Ford clinic?
No, she started the Betty Ford clinic, but he helped her after, like he did her intervention. She was like, "This is important work. We need to start the Betty Ford clinic." He was like, "Yeah, sure." So he was literally like in the Vietnam era studying alcoholism as a Navy doctor. Now, I want to tell you, if you want to study alcoholism, being a Navy doctor in Vietnam is a pretty good place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
He went through some of the science. He talked about some of the research. I mean, this guy was fascinating. But one of the things he talked about was the stages in which alcohol kills your brain. And I mean, I say it kills it. I mean, it incapacitates it in stages. It does not incapacitate it all at once, right? And he said that's why you can literally track somebody's progression as they get drunker and drunker, and you can tell which stage of the brain is being affected, all the way to alcohol poisoning. He says the first stage of the brain is 4 parts, right? You've got your brain that controls the heart and the lungs and the breathing, and you're not in control of it, right? Then you've got your reptile brain, your fight or flight brain, that like is literally your instincts, right? Your gut reactions. Then you've got your, part of the brain that controls desire and emotion and all that. And then you got the prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making part.
Okay.
And he said the decision-making part's the first one to go.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, your
So
inhibitions go.
you start drinking, and the first part of your brain to get drunk and go away and go bye-bye is the prefrontal cortex. Teenagers do not develop a full prefrontal cortex till they're about 25, which is why teenagers possess all of the emotions and all of the size and physical traits of an adult and none of the decision-making powers.
Makes
right?
sense.
So you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old people in the military that don't have a very well-developed prefrontal cortex to begin with. And now they're getting drunk, and what little prefrontal cortex they had is gone.
Yep.
And now their emotional brain's running things. Well, guess what? When you kill the emotional, you start to get the emotional brain. Now you're in your fight or flight brain. And imagine the decision-making process when you let that bitch take over.
Fight. Yep.
Right? So when you say, Chuck, and when I and Joe, that it's not you, it's literally not the complete you. The prefrontal cortex that says, hey, I know you think that chick is really hot, but maybe let's not run over and try to grab her ass and stick our tongue in her ear, because she might not enjoy that, and that's not how society works. That part of you is literally gone. That part of you is asleep, has gone bye-bye. It's been dry. It's like that tranquilizer, over, done, out. So I just felt that was important to say, when you're being honest and listening to your wife about her telling stories about the things that you did, if the terrible stories were about sober you, then we have a whole different conversation.
Yes, correct.
But she's not telling terrible stories about sober you. She's telling terrible stories about intoxicated you. And that wasn't you, at least not the complete you.
Right. And that's why they call it spirits, because back in the day, they thought people would be possessed by a spirit when they would drink because it was not them.
Yeah. There's a whole scripture. I just saw this the other day, and I wish I could fucking remember it. There's a whole thing about demons and alcohol and spirits and everything that all the I guess, mythology and history around it, and the reason why they came out with the name and called it spirits and stuff like that. And it's great that you touched on that, because totally 100%. And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, and there, I mean, you can look up. There's tons of, and this is what whether you believe that Scripture is biblical, is divine and the result of a real God, or whether you believe that God doesn't exist and it's just a collection of historical thoughts and ideas by your ancestors. I want to pass on some wisdom to you that I've learned from other scholars. Your ancestors may have been primitive, but they were not stupid, right? We have not grown better brains over the last 100 years. If anything, they've gotten worse. Your ancestors possessed the same reasoning skills that you do. They just didn't have the scientific knowledge, right? So when they talk, when you talk about warns against, Proverbs warns against rulers drinking wine as it can lead to forgetfulness and injustice, or Ephesians talks about don't get drunk with wine, for that's debauchery. Be filled with the Spirit, right? Like all those kinds of things. I mean, but you also get the people that say, well, Jesus turned water into wine. Yes, he did. And he never inherently said drinking wine is bad. What he always said is, what was that? What is that noise? Is there a spaceship?
Sorry, that's my garage. My wife's going to pick up my son.
It literally doesn't say don't drink. It says don't be a drunk ass. Right? And if you're the kind of person, Joe, apparently, and I don't think I'm casting aspersions. I think you've just admitted this, is that
absolutely
you were incapable of consuming alcohol without being a drunk ass.
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
And you possessed the intestinal fortitude and spine to the point where when you were confronted with that fact, you said, yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to fix it. And you did. So I applaud that. I think that's great.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And so that's why.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's why I am now on a mission to normalize sobriety with veterans. And again, it's like you said, it's only for the people that have an issue, who are self-medicating in a harmful way. I know a lot of people that could have 1 or 2 beers and they're totally fine. Some of us can't, because I physically cannot, so it's more for the people of us. And I don't get preachy. I'm not against any drug, any substance. I'm not against anything if you could use it and it doesn't affect you in a harmful way. I'm specifically worried about the people like me who were in denial. Like, I was like, dude, I'm not an alcoholic. Because like, even before I quit drinking, my wife made me go to an AA meeting, and hearing like these stories after we left, I looked at her and I was like, is that how you view me? And she was like, no, that was really bad. And I was like, oh, okay, God. And not to say that they were bad people or anything, but I didn't think I was there. And to touch on something Chuck said, finding support is the most important thing, because you cannot do this alone. Luckily, my wife was very supportive. My friends were supportive. So I got super lucky in that sense. And some people do find AA supported, or like church groups, but you have to find some tribe, because there's going to be hard days, and we all know what we do when we're alone, nothing good. So like, you have to be able to have someone to call, someone to talk to, because even not to this day so much anymore. It's kind of let up after the first year, but there were so many times where I'm just like, fuck, dude, like, if I had, let me just have one relapse. Let me just have this one drunken night to kind of get rid of this itch, and then I'll go back to being sober tomorrow. But dude, that it doesn't happen.
That's the devil right there, dude, trying to get you to try to get you to.
I mean, that's the literal angel and devil on your shoulder, right?
Dude.
Like,
Dude,
there's a reason that trope exists.
Right there, dude.
And to solidify what you guys are saying, so again, I do junk removal. Well, one day my partner was sick. He had like the flu or something, and we were wrapping up an apartment clean out, and everything, all the other items were small enough for me to do by myself. So I was like, dude, I'll just knock out this apartment clean out. So I'm doing the kitchen. I'm getting all the cabinets done. Open
You
the
found a secret
fridge.
cachet of whiskey.
Dude, in the fridge, as soon as I opened it,
I was kidding. Oh my God. Go ahead.
Dude, it was a 6-pack of my favorite beer.
Oh my
and immediately Devil's like, no one would know. It's right there. You're alone. Angel's like, Joe, do not do it. And I'm like, fuck you, Satan. Like, I literally grabbed a 6-pack and smashed them all in the sink. I was like, I don't even want to be tempted with this.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I knew immediately that was Satan because I was alone and I'm vulnerable. Yes, but immediately I was like, not today, Satan. Like, no, I rebuked his ass. I was like, fuck that.
You know what I thought was crazy is that you talked about how you got sober and then things happened and got better, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, give me a fucking purpose. And the podcast was born. Well, I was going through some stuff. I'm going through my own personal shit. And so I went down, like I said, I went down that rabbit hole of scripture and stuff like that. And it's basically that you're that old saying, it's always dark before the dawn, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Satan always fucking tries to get you and tries to make you sin or whatever it is, try to get you to fall off the wagon, relapse to whatever the fuck or whatever is going on. You go through some really hard times before shit gets better. And that's also God testing you. From what I've been reading and watching and things like that, God's testing you. You're, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You go to church probably more than I do. And there are times in your life that are going to be super hard, but it's teaching you certain lessons in that hard times. And when you make it through that and you get glorified with all that good shit that's coming to you at this point, you know, you're going to be rewarded with some certain things. You know, I'm not saying you're having a hard time, you know, you're going to get rewarded. I'm not saying it's like that. It's not like, oh, well, you're going to get $1,000. You're going to get $1 million. No, I'm not saying that shit. It's, you're going to go through some fucking hard times to see the light and to see your fucking purpose and to know what's going to make you whole, make you feel whole. Right. And it's going to make you, give you that purpose. And I think that you went through all those hard times and showing you and all those temptations and things like that happening, even when shit started getting better, all those temptations and shit started happening. And then you're like, I need a fucking purpose. And then God's like, you learned the lesson. I'm going to give you this purpose. And I think that your podcast and what you're doing, especially with finding that vet therapist, which basically fell into your fucking lap.
Absolutely.
Which you probably would not have been able to find anywhere else because that's a really hard find. I think that is all rewards to you. You hear people tithing and things like that, and they bring their first, like a farmer would bring his first crop and he'll tithe that, he'll give his whole first crop to the church, and the next thing you know, you hear the stories, he's like, I've never had an abundance of fruit like this or whatever crop this is, because he gave it all to God and to Jesus. And then I think that's kind of what's happening with you, and not to get super biblical or you know whatever in this podcast, but I think that's kind of what's happening in my eyes, in my personal opinion. Granted, this is my opinion, that's happening. You asked for a purpose, you went through all these hard struggles and triumphs or tribulations, and now you have your triumph, and things are starting to look good, and now you're reaching out to people and you're helping people, and you're getting exactly what you asked for.
Well, and just saying, not to get all biblical, but I'll full on get biblical, and I'll tell you 100%. If you get out of your own way, God will do amazing things in your life. So
Amen.
I'm just, I don't even want to, like, I won't mince words. Just ask for help and then get out of his way. Because
the only reason why I say biblical is because I'm not a biblical scholar or anything. I'm not a priest, and I haven't even read the full Bible, just from what I know and what I've seen.
You know how many people, I will probably venture to say that 95% of people who identify as Christians have never read the whole Bible.
I agree with that.
Period.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
End of story.
For me,
it's long. Just to get through some of the Deuteronomy and Leviticus and some of the laws and the family tree shit. Like, I've skipped entire sections because I'm like, I don't need that. So don't worry about it, Chuck. The bottom line is, if you have a walk with God, share your story. Period. End of story. So we don't have
absolutely.
We're not a Bible podcast. We are a cop, veteran, first responder podcast, but we are also not afraid to speak our opinions. And the bottom line is that if you and AA, anybody who's in AA will know this, surrender to a higher power, right? What they're saying is there's something out there bigger than you. Get out of its way.
Right. Yep. Right. And you know, the mountain that's in front of me right now, which this is a big climb, but the more I think about the mission that I'm on, the more I see that a good byproduct of this will be, I know the 22 a day isn't an accurate number, but whatever the accurate number is of veterans who take their lives per day, an alarming percentage of them, like over 90%, have some sort of substance in them when they're making this horrendous decision. So if we can normalize veterans or normalize sobriety with veterans on a bigger scale, that should affect that number and bring that number down, you know, like, and then again, that is a huge mountain, but if that's a byproduct of this mission, that's way bigger than me than anything. But again, that would be a huge win for veterans overall if that number comes down, because that, like we were talking earlier, Specialist Wheeler, he's one of the 22. He's someone I deployed with, and demons got to him, and he was a family man, and he ended up taking his own life, and it's unnecessary.
Did it? Well, I think that's a good place. So let's get you to let's talk about your podcast. Let's plug your show right after we get to your dedication, because we always like to dedicate our episodes, and we let our guests pick who they would like to dedicate it to. So you have a dedication. So tell us the story of your dedication.
All right. So Wheeler, he was our medic when I was deployed, and just a good guy. He was happy. He was just like any of us, you know, and we did our deployment. We came back home. He got out shortly after I did. And he started a family, and I guess he was going through some demons that none of us knew about, because when we all got the news that he decided to end his own life, all of us were shocked. Like, when I got the text, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, dude, don't fuck around. Like, why would you say that? And they're like, no, seriously, like, Wheeler's gone. And I'm like, he has kids. Like, what do you mean he's gone? Like, it didn't make sense. But that goes to show that we do suffer on our own. We don't reach out. Like, and he had substances in his system, so he could have been in that demon mind frame, whatever. I don't know what exactly happened, but it's just so heartbreaking to see, you know. And again, it's so unnecessary, because even battle buddies that he talked to earlier that week were like, I have no idea. I literally talked to him 2 days ago. Like, he sounded normal, you know? So yeah. I just want to say rest in peace to him. And I'm sorry that his demons succumbed. Like, it's heartbreaking.
Well, rest easy, Willie. We got it from here. And I think what you just said, if I may, highlights and supports with evidence what I proposed as my theory about why you received the support you received. Don't hide your struggles, boys. Don't hide your struggles. Right. There are people out there who will listen. They will listen, and guess what? They've probably gone through something similar, or are going through something. They've been there. They've done, like, that's what this show is about. We talk about. I've said this numerous times. We talk about it. I hate the idea of group therapy, and I would never, ever, ever voluntarily participate in group therapy. And I say that knowing full well that this podcast is a form of group therapy.
Right. 100%. Small group. Yeah.
Right. But when we started pre-COVID, and we used to have 3 or 4 cops, veterans, sitting around a table with me and my co-host. So it was 6 people, and we would spend 3 or 4 hours, and each person would their hour of talking would get cut into an episode. We get 4 episodes out of one setting, right? Sit at a table, 3 or 4 episodes, we'd cut them up. That's group therapy. Sitting with your friends, talking about your problems is group therapy, period.
Right.
And what we don't like is the therapy part. We don't like because our typical picture of group therapy is what the media portrays as, like, sitting around in a circle, sharing feelings, feeling sorry for ourselves, right? Like, it's really just saying, yo, man, I'm struggling. This is the fucked up shit I'm going through. And somebody else going, yeah, man, you know what? That happened to me too. And I'm still working on it. Here's how I'm coping. And that's it. It's that simple. So it sounds like your podcast aims to do that. And I'm going to be dead honest with you. When you said you've hit episode 11, but you're booked out to 21 episodes.
21. Yep.
21. So that means you have 10 episodes booked that haven't happened yet or in
Correct.
the can, right?
Yeah, booked out till July 21st. Yep.
I'm going full open kimono, and I'm gonna say we are not booked out that far. We are booked out pretty far. We are
Wow.
not booked out that far.
Damn.
And part of that is because we have a different way we book things. But I'm honestly pleasantly surprised, because knowing that you seek out sober veterans willing to talk about their struggle,
That's harder.
that you have found that many people willing to come on. But at the same token, I find that people who have gotten sober are much more willing to share to help other people.
Mhm.
And so I
Absolutely.
get from the perspective of, if you reach out to somebody who is sober and says, hey, we're trying to help other people who are struggling, they're gonna be like, fuck yeah, I'm in.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up? So
Yep,
while
that's
I was
the
initially
response.
shocked, as I think about it and I processed it while we were talking, I came to the conclusion that it does make sense. And I'm really stoked to hear that you've got that kind of buy-in. So
Absolutely.
where can people find you?
So we're on all major podcast platforms. You could also listen to every episode on our website, which is www.thissobervet.com. But yeah, we're on Apple iTunes, we're on Spotify, literally any podcast platform. We're even on YouTube. Just look up This Sober Vet. And what's exciting is I reached out to, I try to only do veteran stories, but I also need to grow. So I'm trying to like get guests on that
Right.
are bigger than me, obviously. So I reached out to this guy. His name's That Sober Guy, and he has over 500 episodes. He's awesome. Like I've been binge watching like his podcast like crazy. Well, I just had him on Tuesday, and he's going to come out later on next month. And the episode went so smooth, and he like afterwards we had to wait for his part to download, and we're just shooting the shit, and he's like, so how many episode, like what episode am I was like, you're episode 11. He was like, 11? He was like, dude, you like that, you're doing this like you've been doing this your whole life. He's like, I thought you've been doing this as long as me. I was like, no, dude, I just started in November. And he's like, holy shit, dude. He's like, when I was on episode 11, I sounded like such a noob. He was like, dude, you're going to go far, man. Like it was cool to get that positive reinforcement.
Oh no, you've
from
got
someone
the
as
gift of
big
gab,
as him.
for sure.
Yeah,
you
I
have
appreciate that.
got the gift of gab. And to be totally honest, we would love to hook up with him and give him a platform as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our
I'll
producer
hook it up.
Dylan set that up, or
Okay.
maybe you know what we should do? We should have like a crossover where we all sit and discuss it. Maybe have him on your show, because we've offered to come on, and so hopefully Chuck and I will be able to come and chat with you on the Sober Vet podcast, this Sober
Absolutely.
Vet podcast.
Yep.
And we've been doing this for 5 years. We have literally interviewed people who are pre-struggle because they just started their career,
Mhm.
mid-struggle where they're coming on and talking about their hardships, and post-struggle guys like you who have come through it and figured out how to deal with it. And
Mhm.
Chuck's been honest on this show today. I've been honest on this show previously. Like everybody struggles. Chuck has struggled. Like it's not, you can't deal with human misery for a living and not have it affect you.
Not at all.
Right? I heard a long time ago, and it was quoted in a TV show. Police work is like navigating the sewer in a glass bottom boat. And at the time, I found that analogy to be accurate, right? You're in the shit, but you're untouched by it. You're looking at it, you're experiencing it, but you're untouched by it. I think it's more accurate to say it's like navigating the sewer in hip waders.
Oh, there you go.
Because you are waist deep in shit and trying not to get it on you.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's
gonna get on you.
not going to work. It's going to get on you.
Well,
Mhm.
Question is, how do you deal with it when it does?
yeah.
Right.
So I appreciate you coming on, Joe. Let's give you closing thoughts, man. Let's talk about this Sober Vet podcast and what your closing thoughts are about problems and how to deal with them. And for our listeners, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there may be someone, based on the story I told at the beginning, there may be someone that this is the episode they need to hear. Right. So here's
Absolutely.
your dance. Shoot your shot, brother.
Okay, cool. All right. So if you are self-medicating in a harmful way, if for any reason you think like, do I have a problem? Even if no one else has brought it up, if you cannot limit yourself to whatever vice you're on right now, if you need your vice to face anything else, that means you have a problem. First step is you have to accept it. Second step is seek help. Again, you will never do this on your own. Whether it's AA, whether it's a buddy, whether it's church or wife, whatever it is, seek help, because you need an accountability partner. You need somebody to lean on, because shit is going to get tough. Like I said, I'm 3 years sober. I'm a war veteran. I'm a business owner. I'm a father. I've been on a reality TV series. Like, I've done everything in my life.
Wait. Whoa.
Reality TV.
Yeah.
We won't even get into it. I don't want to derail you, but this is some shit that, as producer Dylan, you're fired for not being able to tell us this ahead of time, that we can.
It's on my LinkedIn page. Yeah, I was on a show called.
He just didn't put it in our notes, so
yeah,
he's on probation right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was on a show called Operation Hidden Treasures. It follows us as J-Doggers, how we get back to the veteran and even civilian community.
Nice.
And if you have Tubi, which is a free app, you can find it.
Have Tubi.
Yeah. So they filmed 10 episodes, me and my crew on 9 of them, and watch the show, because you'll see me in my drinking stage. I was like super fat back then. So, but it's still me. And yeah, I'm in 9 episodes. It was a great show. It aired on the Discovery Channel and the American Hero Network. Such a cool experience. It was awesome. So anyway, I've done through all these things in my life. The hardest thing I've ever done was get sober. But at the same time, it literally is beyond the most rewarding thing, because it has changed every aspect of my life for the better. If you can have the intestinal fortitude to get through that first couple months and start seeing the benefits of sobriety, I'm telling you, you will never look back. But it is a scary thing to face, because you're going to have to, the way I describe it is, I beat Joe Yurick. No one else in the world could ever say that they beat Joe Yurick, but I did. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's the thing I'm most proud of. And it's been the best thing for my family life, my personal life. Just every aspect of my life is better because I beat Joe Yurick. So if you're struggling, just look in the mirror, know that you can beat yourself. And to simplify it, your strength is in your choices. You're choosing to go to the store. You're choosing to buy that beer. You're choosing to buy that drug. You're choosing that. So you can choose to do better. You've lived your life this certain way. You know what path that gets you. If you want to be somewhere you've never been, you have to do something you've never done. Just have the strength to make that choice and rely on others. And believe me when I tell you, it is so much better on this side. And reach out. We would love to talk to you.
And how can they get to you?
So you can reach me on my website, www.thissobervet.com, or on any podcast is where you could listen to us on any podcast platform. I'm on IG, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok. Just look up This Sober Vet.
It's very easy. I looked at it, and that's how I got the podcast. And it's literally This Sober Vet podcast. Go on it. If you have an Apple, go to the podcast app on your phone, go to Spotify, go to wherever you can get a podcast, type in This Sober Vet, it will pop up. And like you said, go to www.thissobervet.com if you want to link up. And I'm assuming you have an email as well, correct?
Yep. And that's thissobervet@gmail.com.
Same thing as the website. Put a Gmail.
I mean, you know, I will admit, my eyes naturally go, this, observe it.
Observe it. Well, how's it? Check this out.
Sobervet.com, all one word.
There you go. That's
like
the logo.
Graphic, looks cool. Man, I want one of those hoodies.
Those are dope.
I got you. Just send me your address.
Shoot. Hey, Chuck, let's trade. We'll trade hoodies for whoobies.
I'm gonna have Dylan send you my my email. Actually, I'll email you to later on tonight when we get off, because I have somewhere I have to be after this. I will email you personally from my personal email. We'll link up and we'll get all that shit and send it and out to different areas. I'll make sure I get you something. We'll do a trade real quick. I'll
go ahead and take us home, Chuck. I know you got a heart out, so take us home.
So I want to say thank you all today for tuning in. Thank you, Joe, so much. I mean, it's a fucking pleasure. You talk about something that I think is very important for a lot of people to hear, because so many people, I've lost friends, and I don't want to fucking cry, so I'm not. And I've
Yeah,
lost
don't be a
friends
pussy.
who have, I've lost friends who have had vices, and they cope the wrong way. And
Mhm.
if we can link up on a podcast, I'd love to share that story. I'd love to share my own struggles and my own shit, the way I'm working through it. And I know Tom would love to as well. But I want to say thank you all today for tuning in. Joe, great fucking story, great podcast, great platform. Got to hit that up again. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you're already following us, we really appreciate it if you could share a post and help spread the word. You can also check out the link in our bio on both platforms. You can find all of our social media, our media links, and our website. Our podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including YouTube. If you'd like to support us, go over to YouTube, or not YouTube, our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com and our YouTube. And to grab some merch. We still have some Whoopie hoodies, some other shirts and things like that. Once it's all gone, it's never coming back. We're going to do some revamps and things like that. Do you have a story to tell, or do you know someone who does? We're always looking for law enforcement, veterans, corrections officers, dispatchers, firefighters, medics, ER docs, and ER nurses to feature on the show. If you're interested, email us at booking.warstories@gmail.com or LinkedIn at linkedin.com/War Stories Podcast and share your story. You can link up with Dylan over there. If you message booking, I will send you over to Dylan and he will get you booked. If you've already reached out and you haven't heard anything back through booking, reach out again. Just be like, hey, dum. Yeah, I reached out, and I'll link you up with Dylan. We'd love to hear you, and we'd love to have you on. If you know someone who'd be a great fit, please send them our way. And also check us out on TikTok, www.tiktok.com/War
Or not,
Stories
if you don't want
Locker
to
Room.
support China.
Or not. I mean, I think it's
I'm
US
kidding.
based now, right?
I don't know.
Go to our producer's LinkedIn, who runs the LinkedIn War Stories page at linkedin.com/War Stories Podcast.
Oh, and this is on YouTube. Hit the like. We're supposed to.
Yeah,
I
ding
swear, I
dong.
feel like such a tool. Click the button, get the ding, like, subscribe,
Notify,
blah blah
yeah.
blah. Gay.
Make sure
Oh,
to hit
I
the
missed-
notification bell, subscribe, and make sure to check out This Sober Vet podcast.
Yes.
ThisSoberVet.com if you want to link up. Thank you for the support. Stay safe.
And I will say this before I give our normal sign off, Joe. I normally just go right into the sign off, but I want to give my little producer's input. I would maybe suggest opening yourself up to the idea of having some sober cops on, because we know a couple and their experiences would probably resonate with your people.
Okay.
I spoke to Al Mampry, who was the medic in the 101st Airborne Easy Company Band of Brothers.
Oh, wow.
It was one of the most life-changing experiences talking to this man, and it changed my perspective of my career. I had retired, and he said, hey, it was nice to meet you, sir. I'm humbled and honored to meet you. I'm amazed by what you did. Thank you, sir. Blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, did you serve? And I said, no, sir, I was not in the military, but I've been a police officer. Blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, no, thank you for your service. And I went, what? No. I mean, nothing. Being a police officer does not compare to anything you did. Please don't. And I was literally telling him, like, I'm not comfortable with that. And he looked at me square in the face. And this man, he's 80 and he's in a wheelchair and he's frail, and he patched up his lieutenant under sniper fire in the middle of an open field. And he looks at me and he goes, no. You don't understand. My deployment lasted 2 or 3 years. Your deployment lasts 20.
Right.
And it was like this moment of holy shit.
Wow.
I never thought of every shift out there on the street as a cop, as a deployment, but that's the way he did.
Right.
So throwing that out there, if you need your first cop, I guarantee you I have the guy for you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'll do
Thank
that.
you for coming on, Joe. We look forward to talking to you again. And don't hang up, because I have something to tell you afterwards. And until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.